Hi guys, this video is intended to help you with your classwork 4.6 where you're not really going to be writing a new program but rather adding some code to 3 existing programs. I'm going to demonstrate that on my slope program just to kind of show you how this works. But you've encountered in 2 programs now where you can generate errors that basically crash your program. We still want the user to know that we have errors, but we don't want our program to crash. So what you can do is you can put in a statement called a try-catch statement to kind of eliminate those errors. Before we do that, I'm just going to go to my design page here and explain to you the most common type of error that can occur. We saw division by zero and square root of negative errors, which were math errors, but actually the most common error that occurs in most programs are when the user inputs data, in the slope formula in this case, the 4 values of the coordinates, and they enter the incorrect type of data. So the computer program is expecting a number here. You either defined it as a decimal or a double in your program. So it's expecting a number, and if the user types a letter or some character that's not a number in any of those 4 values, the computer doesn't know what to do with it and basically crashes and burns again. So a try-catch is really helpful in that case, and of course it'll help with the division by zero and the square root of negative, but really any program where the user inputs data should have a try-catch to basically stop the program from crashing and just alert the user that the input they typed in was not correct. So I'm basically going to just point out where I'm putting this code. I need it to be in the code where we find the slope, since that's where my user's inputs are going to be used. So if I go back to my code, I'll show you where that is, but I called it slope button. Some of you called it calculate, some of you just called it slope on your button. But inside the code for that button, I'm basically going to insert some code. So I'm just kind of moving this down so I have a space here. And I'm going to type the word try. Oops, and that needs to be lowercase. And as soon as you do a try-catch statement, you need to open a bracket. So basically I'm trying everything that falls after the bracket. And at the very end, I'm going to close that bracket. And it's always annoying to me that it doesn't know enough to line this stuff up. I apologize. It drives me nuts. Okay, so that lines up with my try statement now. So basically we're telling the computer, hey, try all this when they click the button. But if you get an exception handler error, I want you to provide a catch. And the syntax for that is to type catch, exception, and then you have to assign a variable to it. I'm just going to let my exception variable be EX. And once I do that, I need to open up some brackets again. And now I'm going to actually tell it what to do when it executes the catch. I would like a message box to show up. So if you remember from a few programs ago, message box dot show is the syntax here. And what I want to show is my variable EX. And whoops. And I don't need to give it a separate message. C# already has default messages for errors, so the way you tell it to do the default messages, you just type the word message, end it with a semicolon, and then close my bracket, of course. Okay, so I got everything all lined up, and what you can see is the try statement inside the event click handler here. And notice I have brackets around the code that I'm trying, so you already have this code in for the slope formula. And then if an error is generated in that code outside this bracket, I write my catch. And again, the syntax is catch, exception with a class capital E, and then I am going lowercase ex as my local variable. It's just actually a variable that I'm referring to the catch as. And what I'm actually having it do as the catch is to display a message box. That's what this message box show indicates. I'm telling it, do it when there's an exception error, and I want to display the default message for C#, which I indicate by just putting dot message. Make sure you have your semicolon at the end, close out the bracket. But give this code a good look because the brackets get a little tricky when you try to insert the try catch statement to existing code. It's actually much easier to do from the start. So hopefully this will help you out. And I'd say see you later, but I'm looking at you right now.